Okay, class, we're going to deal with something called effects control window, which also is really useful in terms of scaling your images. So if you have an image you need to crop, you need to zoom in on, you need to reposition a little bit, you can use it. It's easier with a still image than it is with video. And people will say, oh, well, that's sort of the Ken Burns effect, you know, this idea of zooming into an image and having it reposition in the frame. It takes a lot of time to get good at it. I'm not particularly good at it. I don't use it a lot. But first thing you need to do is if you put your playhead, so I'm down here in my timeline, and I made this clip particularly long so we can play with it. And if you click on it, and then you go up to Windows and open up Effects Control. Get rid of that guy. So here's your clip. Here's your shot, right? The first frame of it all the way to the last frame. If you put it the first frame to the first frame and you go here to scale and you hit this button here, okay, which is going to begin the animation. So you're telling it like we're going to start at 100. We're going to start at 100. And then at the end of it over here, I want to zoom in, right? I want to, so sorry, when you go back to 100, you hit that little button, say, okay, that's where we're starting, boom, right? And then as you go to the end of it, you can hit this little square here. By the time you get to the end of it, you can zoom out, okay? Zoom out to where you want it to be. So you can see over here that it's changed, right? It's got this ramp. So come over here, and then there's your the work you've done, right? You've got this nice slow zoom in on this awesome little can. So you can do that on shorter clips. It can be distracting. You gotta be careful with it. You don't want to do it all the time, otherwise it loses any effect it has. Now another thing you can do is you can reposition things. So here we are back at the front, right? And we can hit position over here and know that that's our starting position. So we hit that. We're going to add a keyframe there as our starting position. And then hit the motion. And we're going to go to our end frame, which is over here. And for our position, we want to move it up a little bit. So go here again. We're going to move it up a little bit. Okay? So that should be our ending position. So now in that case, when we come back here, see how it's now moving up, that the recycling piece moves up. So we see it a little bit more, right? So we're keyframing not only, you can see that path that it's taking as it moves up, right? And the path it goes back down. See this circle? So that is, and you saw that it bounced around, it skipped around at the beginning a little bit. Sometimes you've got to just put it back in the frame. So now we've done two things, right? We've keyframed the scale, and we've also keyframed the position in the frame. Okay? Again, something you got to be careful of. You can also watch a ton of YouTube videos about how to do this. Slow is usually good unless you're going for a really fast effect. Okay, so that's one thing we need to learn how to do. The other thing I'm going to show you real quick is how to export your projects, because we're going to watch them as a class at times, right? So if you come over here, when you're done with your edit and you put everything together and you're like, oh, this is awesome. I love my edit. It's so good. It just, and maybe, you showed it to me or we sort of talked about it and you want to export it. Go down here so you can see your whole timeline. You can see your whole timeline. And you put a little right click on the end of the music to put a little default so it goes out with a dissolve, right? So it's got this cool ending. I've muted those, unmute them. Right? Goes out to there. And then you will put an out mark, and then you'll come up to, you find your window, there's your project window. Make sure you're clipped on the sequence, which is still 1. You'll go up to File, Export Media. And here you're going to make sure it's named correctly. And you're going to click on that so you can tell it where to go. I'm going to tell it just go to the desktop. And I'm going to call this still 1 export. Now here's the important part. You go into here, you got to figure out what size you're going to export this as, right? You've got a lot of options. So when you're thinking about the format, this says MP3. Well, we're obviously not going to do that, right? So what we like to export things at is H.264, okay? Also at times we'll export as MPEG-4. That's an option too. Right now, let's do H.264, and then you're going to come in here, and I'm going to ask you to go all the way down. Let's do Vimeo 720 HD. It's a good size, Vimeo 720 HD. Okay? And then you know where it's going. It's going to the desktop, and you will hit export. Okay? Here you can see how long it is. It's nice and it's very short. You can do a little preview of it. Right, there it is. Bum, 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 bum. It's 9 seconds and 15 frames. So it's 9.5 seconds long. Very short. Okay, and you hit export. And then I'll ask you to put it in a folder on the Google Drive, right? It shouldn't be too large. You can see down here how big it is. It's 9 megabytes. So this is nice and small. It's got audio and video. So that's good. But yeah, we're going to use H.264 Vimeo 720p HD. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.